Optimum Coal Mine, Piers Mars-den, and the former Mineral Resources Department Director General, Dr Tibedi Ramontja, in Parktown, Johannesburg this morning. Yesterday, Marsden said Eskom representatives did not seem interested in finalising an agreement to avoid putting Optimum Coal Mine into liquidation when the mine was still owned by Glencore. Okay, let's get more on this. Let me bring in our reporter, SABC reporter Mbali Mthethwa, who's live for us in Parktown. Mbali, thank you very much indeed for your time. Let's firstly discuss Marsden's testimony on the events that led to Optimum Mine being placed on business rescue. What came out of that?
Okay. Good morning, Blaine. Yes, indeed, we had Piers Mars-den speaking during the inquiry and talking about how a decision by then CEO, Eskom CEO, that is Brian Molefe, to play hardball, as well as Machela Koko also playing hardball, is what led to Optimum Mine going into business rescue. Now, Marsden told the commission that when they came in, they found that Optimum Mine only had one existing contract, and the contract was with Eskom and to supply its Hendrina power station, and they say that they were actually supplying coal to Eskom at a loss. They were supplying it at 150 Rand per ton instead of 450 Rand per ton. He's saying that the mine actually spent 450 Rand per ton to produce coal, which was then sent to Eskom's Hendrina power station. And he's saying that they then decided as business practitioners to then enter into renegotiations with Eskom in order to at least get a better rate and also for the mine to be sustainable. He also explained that the mine, Optimum Mine's losses was being offset by its holding company, which was Optimum Coal Holdings. So going back to the issue of Eskom playing hardball, they said that they tried to renegotiate the terms of the contract, which was supposed to be extended until the end of 2018. And he says that when they spoke to then CEO Brian Molefe, he insisted that they would be continuing. They were expecting to get coal from the mine until 2018 at the same rate they had negotiated when they signed the coal supply agreement. And he said that when they came in, they found that the mine was obviously making losses, and it was also in debt. It had a debt of 2.1 billion rand. Now we know that the 2.1 billion rand is the money is money they incurred in penalties because the coal did not meet Eskom's contract agreement specifications, and that's how they ended up incurring the 2.1 billion rand penalties. And he says that they tried to speak to then group executive. I'm not sure if at the time he was group executive or head of generation, but Machela Koko has had two positions at Eskom, but they tried to speak to Koko to try and bring down that amount, the 2.1 billion rand penalties, and they were saying that Machela Koko was also playing hardball with them, and he was adamant that he would not waiver the 2.1 billion rand. This is what then led them going into business rescue, and what the business rescue practitioners then had to do, because they were well in their right, within their right to do so, was to cancel the contract they had in order to bring a sense of urgency around the contract, and in order to get the parties from Eskom, that is Brian Molefe and Machela Koko and others, to come in and renegotiate this very same contract.
Mbali, talk to us about this apparent prepayment by Eskom to Tegeta.
Okay, so the prepayment has also come back, and how the prepayment comes back. So we know that there's a 659 million rand prepayment that was paid to Tegeta. Now, on the 2nd, I'm not sure of the date, if it's the 1st or the 2nd of December 2015, a sale agreement was signed between Glencore obviously selling its mine, its assets obviously to Tegeta, and we believe we now know that based on on the information that was given to us by Marsden, is that an agreement was signed in Zurich in Switzerland, and it's believed that none other than former Minister of Mineral Resources Mosebenzi Zwane was present at the signing of that agreement in Zurich, where also Glencore CEO was present, and then a CEO of Oak Bay, Nazim Hoa, was also present. Now what happened is Marsden says that later on in around March he wasn't aware of the sale of Optimum Mine to Tegeta, but he became aware of it when he received a phone call from Nazim Hoa informing him that they had a shortfall of 600 million rand. Now, we also heard from one of Eskom's employees, I'm not sure, Sanel Naga is the name, I almost forgot the name, Sanel Naga, who told the commission that there was a late night meeting that took place on the 11th of April in 2016, and it was at this late night meeting, which happened at 9 o'clock, where an agreement, rather a pro forma invoice was approved for 659 million rand, and this was a prepayment for services for services that had not been rendered and for stock that had not been received. And Sanel Naga told the commission that this was really weird and had never happened in the history of Eskom and in the time that he had spent at Eskom. And further, he says that the pro forma invoice was then paid off. But you know who the person who actually brings our attention to this prepayment is? None other than evidence leader advocate Vincent Maleka, who during when he was questioning Piers Mars-den, he brings our attention back to the prepayment that was made on the 11th of April and signed by Machela Koko and witnessed by Anoj Singh.
Mbali, you would no doubt agree.
So it's almost as though there's almost a sense that, you know,
no, carry on.
There's almost a sense, I'm sorry, there's almost a sense that this prepayment was basically going towards, you know, settling this, you know, finalizing this purchase agreement that, you know, Tegeta had entered into with Glencore in terms of buying back the mine. But, you know, going back to the 2.1 billion rand penalties, we know that we've been told that the penalties were later renegotiated and reduced to around 250 million rand when the mine was under Tegeta and no longer under Glencore. And now, you know, yesterday we heard a lot about how, you know, Eskom was playing hardball, Machela Koko was playing hardball, and Brian Mthethwa was also playing hardball, saying refusing to waiver the penalties and also refusing to re-enter negotiations around the contract. And it's almost as though they created an unfair scenario that would force Glencore to sell the mine to Tegeta, because at the same time we also learned that the Tegeta purchase agreement was unsolicited. So Tegeta going to Glencore and asking to buy the mine was not solicited, in the sense that Glencore was not planning to sell its mine. Tegeta just went ahead and offered to purchase its assets. Now, we know that in the agreement, they didn't only buy the Optimum Mine, but they also bought over the holding company, as well as another Kroonfontein mine that was also part of the Optimum Group.
Yesterday morning, Mbali, was extremely intriguing, and what was of interest was Moyane's application to cross-examine Pravin Gordhan. Tell us a bit about that.
Yes, so Moyane did come in for applying for leave to cross-examine Pravin Gordhan, and the arguments here were basically two arguments. One was arguing, Moyane's legal team was arguing that he's well within his rights to cross-examine Minister of Public Enterprises Pravin Gordhan, and Pravin Gordhan's lawyers were arguing that is it in the Commission's interest to have him come in and cross-examine Pravin Gordhan. I understand that there is a clip that you have on standby for us. I'm going to link to that for now, and then we can continue talking about it after this.
Enmity and anger harbored by Minister Gordhan towards me as a person are sufficient to disqualify him as an impartial, dispassionate commentator on any issue where I'm allegedly involved. Now here, the documented and unchallenged history of racist and other forms of abuse of power in the hands of Mr. Gordhan will be provided as the basis for the conclusion postulated in the preceding paragraph. There's a transcript of a telephone call by Mr. Gordhan to Mr. Moyane, which Mr. Moyane found to have racist connotations and undermining towards him. For example, it's verbatim. He says to Mr. Moyane, grow up. And Mr. Moyane says, what do you mean I must grow up? I'm not a little boy. And we know the connotation in the South African context of referring to somebody as a boy. We are almost the same age. You can't talk to me like that, and so on.
The first
Unfortunately, we lost that last bit of the clip, but we had this back and forth from the various legal representatives of Mr. Moyane as well as Mr. Pravin Gordhan. Some of the salient points that came out of there for you, Mbali, and also when can we expect judgment on this cross-examination application?
Okay, Blaine, what we do know at this stage is that judgment has been reserved, and we're not sure when we're going to get a resolution and hear judgment, and when we're going to hear Judge Raymond Zonder's decision on this application to cross-examine Pravin Gordhan. But what was clear in the going-ons yesterday is a strained relationship between former SARS Commissioner Tom Moyane as well as Minister of Public Enterprises Pravin Gordhan, and it was clear for everyone to see, the clip that you played, it's basically suggesting that, Moyane is of the view that Pravin Gordhan is racist and that he treated him unfairly, and, he also the word that was used was castigated him and so on, and hurt his pride, and something to that effect. But basically, at the center of this is a strained relationship where basically allegations are made going back and forth. But the conversations were on whether it would be in the interest of the commission to hear whether Tom Moyane's involvement in a Munyeki contract, in the signing of a Munyeki contract, that is what Gordhan's lawyers were arguing for, saying that it is in the interest of the commission for Moyane to in fact come in and answer to questions relating to a contract that he approved during his tenure as SARS commissioner. And they were also saying that it is not in the interest of the commission to for Moyane to come in and question him on the basis of racism, as well on the basis of whether Gordhan likes Moyane and so on. But Moyane's legal team is adamant that, listen, he has been implicated and it is well within his right, and it's also stipulated in the rule books of the commission that when a party is implicated, they then can apply for leave to cross-examine the person who has made the implications during their testimony.
Mbali, towards the end of yesterday's session, I kind of heard the name Nene being mentioned. Who can we expect today?
Okay, for today, we are indeed expecting Nhlanhla Nene to come in and give testimony here at the commission. But another person that we're also expecting to come in is the former DG of the Mineral Resources, not the Mineral Resources, the Department of Mineral Resources rather. So those are the two testimonies we can expect.
Okay, Mbali Mthethwa, SABC reporter, appreciate your reporting. Thank you very much indeed. Des?
In other news, 7 suspects aged between 13 and 16 will appear in the Polokwane Children's Court